5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You are now sitting with the Suttons. And for those of you all who have been sitting there waiting patiently on us, we want to thank you so much for doing that. As you all know, anytime you're dealing with technology, it's always a lot of fun.
Wow.
But we want to thank you for joining us this evening and making marriage great again.
Yes,
we are your hosts, Tristen and CC.
Yep.
T, have you had a good week?
It's been busy.
It's been a little busy. It's been full of technology fun as well. But we are here and we are glad that you have welcomed us into your home. We hope that you have your boo next to you. You got your pen and paper.
The whole family. Blend them all together.
We blend. That's right. Get the kids because we're going to talk to them too. But tonight we are talking about how to blend a blended family. And as most of you all know, Tristen and I don't have children, but we have a lot of great friends who do. And some friends also have blended families. And so when we're sitting down and we're talking to them, they're like, you know what? This blended family thing is kind of real.
It's kind of true.
It's real true. You know, the first time marriage is like, okay, I got this groove. We good. You know, these mine, they know what's up. If I tell them something, they're going to do it. But the blended family situation is a whole nother dynamic. So we definitely want to take the time in our Making Marriage Great Again mission to address this particular topic. So if you know someone, please share this video with them. You just never know what families are going through because people aren't going to post on there when they're dealing with drama all the time.
They only want to post the good stuff.
That's right. So we definitely want to take the time to help others around us in building our community and our marriage community.
Yes,
so
to make it great again.
To make it great again.
So that's why we imported an expert.
That's right. We imported an expert tonight. We couldn't give you much advice on this one, but we're going to always find a resource who can. And tonight joining us is the blended family guy himself, Marques Holmes, and his beautiful wife, Crystal Holmes. So we're going to go ahead and pull them in to join us tonight. Say, hey. Hey. He's pointing at her. Is she the one that makes it all happen?
She makes it all happen.
I know she's
the reason.
Hold it down and move around.
Glue. She's the glue. Well, we really appreciate you all joining us tonight. We had the pleasure of meeting this beautiful couple not too long ago here. And, you know, it was just a lot of good energy between us. And we said we needed to get on the same platform because we're both about making marriage great again, essentially. Absolutely. So we want to thank you for joining us tonight. To kick off things, to give everyone a perspective of how important this topic is, there is a statistic that I found from the Academy of Matrimonial Attorneys. And it says, Marques, at least 66% of second marriages fail.
Wow.
Does that sound kind of accurate to you or about right?
That's about accurate. And I think you know why. If you can't solve that blended family dynamic the second time, it makes you more susceptible the third and fourth and fifth time. And I'm going to tell you, when you get into a pattern of thinking that you can just end, I shouldn't say end the marriage, it just makes it easier that second, that third, that fourth time. So that's why we decided to get out there, become transparent, and really start this blended family. I call it.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Yes.
Preach.
It definitely is a ministry. And when I read the statistic, it said that most of these marriages come to a demise because they never really deal with the previous stuff that they dealt with. The previous baggage. And then once you bring stepchildren into it, it causes more conflict. So they're not saying that it's actually the children that's causing the issue, but when you pile that on top, that's where it comes from. Is that what you guys have experienced too?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. I mean, Absolutely. it was rough. I was very selfish, didn't realize it when we first got married, and I introduced a lot of stress. And it was, and I put it on her, and it wasn't her fault. So I had to grow up a lot. I had to do a lot of maturing because I was getting upset with her about baby mama drama in terms of, here we go. We're talking about the baby daddy. The baby daddy drama. And, child support. And we argued a lot over that. I mean, to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm done with it. I'm done. I'm working hard. I'm done with this. And I thank God I had some accountability partners. And that's what we're going to be talking about today as well. It's just the accountability partners you have in your life are key to making a marriage work.
And while we were getting to get married. I'll just say this. A dear friend of mine was actually in the process of divorce. So it was an interesting situation where, I kind of looked up to her as a mentor, and she was in the process of a divorce. And, I kind of noticed that during that time, there were some things that I was even learning as I was getting ready to get married. Like, wow, when you have certain things that you bring into that marriage and you don't have wise counsel, just believe in that. I think that, people have to be willing to talk to people and not act like they can just solve it themselves.
Yeah. And that happens a lot. We get in our silos and we don't want people in our business. Don't be telling them all my stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that's really important.
Collective, because you still need those sounding boards and be able to share with people, but you really have to be very precise who you share that with.
Right. So y'all take us back to the year that y'all got married. When y'all first got married, what did y'all expect this blended family process to be like?
What did you? I'll let you take that one.
Well, I'll say this. It was. We actually started out with some counseling. And I think it was because on both ends we had some caring individuals that really wanted us to not only succeed, but they wanted our family to succeed. And so we had a great counselor in the counselors, we'll say Brother and Sister Green there in Greensboro, North Carolina, still holding it down, I believe 54 years of marriage, somewhere in there. And they act like they're just as young as us, And the reality is that they're willing to be transparent. So they were very transparent with us. We had several, sessions with them. And even in coming to Houston, I just think that God just had us set up that, not that it was going to be easy, but that he was going to help us to succeed early in because, the pastor of the ministry that we were a part of for over a decade, with Pastor Titus Stewart. What was so interesting is that our stories are so similar. So not only did we enter into a relationship, a friendship with the pastor that we served, but also his relationship with his own wife was very similar. So it was like God was setting us up. We were growing up with someone who was in a blended family dynamic as well. So we were growing together. And I think it just really allowed for us to have some successful, foundational things, I'll say, on our journey from 16 years ago. So 16
years.
So what I hear you saying is that just like with your first marriage, it's just as important to sit down again with wise counsel. Don't think, I already know how this goes. We've been there, done that. Clearly, if you knew, you'd still be in the first one, but
Yeah.
You said it.
Yeah. Seriously. You don't have all the answers. You don't.
Because in a new relationship comes new personality, new nuances and things like that. So you're going to need new guidance and new advice.
Right.
So, there's an interesting statistic behind that. The average marriage, a new marriage, first time marriage takes about 7 years for a family to sink because of the stress level. Because there's stress anytime you're blending personalities. When it's a blended family, that 7 years is collapsed into 3 years. So I want you to think about how that stress is elongated when you're newly married. When you're a blended family, you experience what should naturally take 7 years, you experience it in 3. So if you don't have some wise counsel around you, some accountability, some coaches around you, you're probably going to fail because of frustration. And that's what happens with most blended families.
So the stress, the frustration, those things catch up with you first before anything.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And we experienced that. And it wasn't lack of coaching. It was, we had to experience that thing.
Right.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think Pastor Robinson, as well as the Greens, they weren't blended family. So they gave us amazing coaching, but they couldn't give us that blended family perspective.
Right.
So again, great coaches, great counseling, but not that blend.
Right.
And that's where we believe that there's got to be blended family coaching going on.
Right. Right.
If you're just joining us tonight, we want to thank you for sitting with the Suttons. Tonight, we are talking about blending a blended family. And we have the expert and his beautiful wife here with us tonight, the blended family guy. And right now, we're just talking about what's it like those first few years when you very first get married. And the main thing that I took away from that is a lot of stress.
Lots.
And it sounds like a lot of forgiveness and quick forgiveness has to happen too, because you have all these new people around and it's going to be all kinds of offenses happening. Talk to us about that forgiveness, that F word.
Ooh, the F word.
The good F word.
The good F word. But sometimes. So yes.
But no, I just I think about how like some of the things that Marcus was saying. He was a new father. I mean, I think about April the 14th when we got married in 2001. One of my boys that was just blessed in our wedding, and he was like, "Wow, you just became a father and a husband." Because he pronounced a blessing over our daughter Camille at the same time. Gave her a necklace. Everybody was just like, "Wow," because I didn't know he was going to do that, and it was very sweet. But I mean, let's really think about that. That's huge. I mean, he became not only a husband who had a wife that pretty much uprooted herself and moved across the country away from her family. So we became a family completely away from the in-laws on my side as well as his side, because his family was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. My family was in North Carolina. So we were right smack dab in the middle here in Houston, with our new daughter and our family together, having to figure it out, by faith with God. And it was not easy.
I'll give you, I wanted to go back to the child support thing, right? Because that's where the forgiveness really had to happen with me.
Right.
But I'm so glad my wife forgave me in my pursuit of child support. It wasn't because I was trying to be vindictive against our daughter's biological father. It was because I wanted him to have a part in her life. I felt that, again, that was her father. He should, by all rights and by law, do that. However, the one thing I'm so glad, Crystal, she stood her ground, and my wife can be very stubborn when she needs to be. And I'm so glad she was stubborn this time, because she didn't give in. I wanted to go to the lawyers. I wanted to go to child support services. And she said no. And the reason why is because at that point in our daughter's father's life, the biological, he just wasn't ready, right? And that's okay. That was okay. But I'm so glad that by the time she stood her ground, it was enough for us to weather that storm. Because and that's what I think blended families, they've got, that's that kind of stress. And every family is different, but.
Well, when you mentioned the term selfish, this man is not selfish. There's nothing. So we're talking about selfish. Let me say this. That means that there are a lot of people in trouble, because this man he is so far from selfish. But what can happen is that, and I think this can just creep into any situation when you're dealing with blending a family with children, whether it be a mother who is stepping up or whether it be a father figure that's stepping up. What can happen is that when they see the lack thereof coming from the biological parent, there can be this thing that rises up in you that says, well, why aren't they doing what they're supposed to be doing, assuming that responsibility? And so then, and then maybe it might be a situation where that child is connected to that person who's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and you're trying to win them over. And so we were in that winning part of the relationship, whereas even though Camille, very well, I mean, she welcomed him into her life. And he did not do it with just a dump, but he gave her gradual, steps. And I believe just really spirit-led. And that's really my number one. I'm just like, my God, we may be blended. And this is for every blended situation out there. Got to have Christ as your center. Because no matter how blended you are, if it wraps around him, then it's going to hold together. And I'm telling you, that's just the reality. You may have had things that rose up in you that made you feel like, well, there was a bitterness there because of maybe you saw the way that she interacted or reacted in a certain way. But because we were able to go back to that center it allows you to settle down. It allows you to have to see it from a whole different perspective. And I think that may be the ultimate challenge. It's just real.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, you all started kind of talking a little bit about in-laws. Let me ask you this, because this question came up. How do you deal with a disrespectful in-law? Like if it's your mother or your father, somebody very close that is not respecting your new partner, how do you deal with that?
Well, first, we both have a great set of parents. Crystal's mom, I loved her so much. We moved her from North Carolina to Houston this past year. And she spoils me. I think she likes me better than Crystal.
She does.
She spoils me. So we and my parents love Crystal. I mean, it's the most amazing relationship that she has with my mother. However, we have seen the disrespect from the in-laws. And when it's a blended family, it's now multiple sets of in-laws per se. You have to really know and be rooted and grounded. Your spouse has to stand up for you.
Yeah.
That's what me and Crystal were talking about earlier. When it comes to in-laws, I have to tell, if my parents were disrespectful towards her, she's numero uno, right after God. Like the Bible says, you forsake, mom and dad, you leave and cleave, you leave the parents, and she's numero uno. I would say this, and my parents know this, and that's why they never crossed that boundary and never have, and her mom never would. If they ever were disrespectful to Crystal, we wouldn't have a relationship.
Yeah.
It's that serious, but I'm so glad that they've never crossed that. But that's what it comes down to. She's my wife.
Right.
And they have to respect that.
When you say we've seen where people have let their parents help with raising the children, their input, their feedback, and then what I mean by that is not the old school, can you help me and give me advice? Because I'm all for that. I was a young mother. That's part of my testimony. So I learned very early on that I need to humble myself because I've never been a mother. So there's some things about it that are just natural. You do need to listen to your grandmother and your mother and take that advice. I tell young mothers now, I'm like, be respectful, be humble, realize you do not know it all. You need to get good information so that the children are not just casualties of war between you or you with your spouse.
Wow.
But also on the other hand, you do need to realize when they're going too far, when they're getting too involved in, a heated discussion, or maybe you all are trying to work something out and you're trying to figure out what's best for your child, or you're trying to figure out, you have to know when involving mom or either if having them to do certain things is now stepping in the way of you all blending. And that's just, that can never happen.
Absolutely. So you all, just got married. You're still learning each other yourselves. And now we have a disciplinary issue come up. It was your daughter, correct? Your biological daughter, correct, Crystal?
Yeah.
Okay. So she's cutting up and Marcus is ready to step in there and take care of the disciplinary issue. How did we go about disciplining, and how do we advise a step parent to discipline their stepchild?
Yeah.
So
go right ahead.
What I had done is I had earned the right to discipline Camille because she knew I loved her.
Wow.
So love me first.
So tell us how that process went though.
Yeah.
Good.
So, from age 5,
I'm thankful for that. Go ahead.
From age 5, when I first met Crystal, the
Camille
moment I met, when Camille was age 5, I courted Crystal for a couple of years. And the first time I met Camille, I made sure that I looked her in her eyes. I got down on my knees. I looked her in her eyes and I said, I'm your mom's friend. I'm Mr. Marques at that time. It's before we got married. Once we got married, she had moved from North Carolina to Houston. Me and Crystal talked, and this is something you gotta talk about with your spouse beforehand. I asked her, I said, well, Chris, what should we have Camille call me? Is Mr. Marques? I feel a little, because I'm a fatherly guy. I love children. Mm-hmm. And And I said, Chris, I just don't feel comfortable with Mr. Marques, but I also wanted Camille to feel comfortable because I loved her. The moment I met Camille, I loved her. Beyond the shadow of a doubt, I've never called her stepdaughter. She's mine. I love when people say she looks like me. I just laugh. I don't tell her nothing because she is mine. All right. So I had to earn that. And when I came to her, after me and Crystal talked, and we were in agreement, I said, Camille, would it be okay? I didn't force her. I asked her, would it be okay if you called me daddy? And I think I said dad, but from that moment forward, I was daddy.
Daddy M.
Was I Daddy M at first? And then
Daddy M, I like that. Daddy M.
She said Daddy M, and that was her, you know, and he was cool with that.
I was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't care if she wanted to call me Mr. Marques. I was okay if to this day she said I'd been saying Mr. Marques, but I love that girl like she was my own. And so I was good either way.
You really speak
so
in here. Trey Thomas said, man, this is powerful. He missed it and didn't force it. So the fact that you didn't force that, like so many actually do, that's resonating with you. You actually took the time to get her input. You weren't so just feeling like this is about me and she better call me something that I wanted to call me. You really took your time and cultivated that relationship. And I think that that's what's missing a lot of times. You know, some of us go into it with the I'm the adult and you do what I say, or, you know, just all kinds of jaded perspectives about how this should go. But sounds like you're into this with gentleness and love and tenderness. And because of that, that turnaround time with her bonding with you was cut down significantly.
Yeah.
Do you see that? That's some of the coaching that we try to provide.
And that's this. You're not a person that avoids. So I'll say this to the fathers out there, that if you are the type of father that you are non-confrontational, first of all, I don't know how fatherhood can be fatherhood without confrontation, whether it's blended or not, because there's going to be challenges along the way when that child goes into adolescence, when that child is trying to figure things out. But because of his willingness to engage in so many different phases of life, you know, I think that it just naturally progressed to where if she needed discipline because of her beautiful leadership skills and strong will, when she needed that, it just, you know, she didn't come like, you can't do that to me because you're not my father. We never had that.
Never had that issue.
It was, you know, I crossed the line. And she realized that, you know, and then we had, you know, I think you and her really bonded tighter over some of these different ways that you know, went about it, because
you know what,
I heard about it. Just trying to make sure.
I earn my daughter's respect every day.
Yes.
What she sees on social media, how she sees me treat her mom, how she sees me treat her brothers. I'm earning her respect every day so I can confront her when need be. So I love that young lady. She's my heart. And I'm thankful. I want to let me be clear about this. Her biological father, I'm grateful for him. What was that? What was that, Tristan?
Make it plain, Reverend. Bring it on down.
Well, I'm thankful for him because without him, I wouldn't have Camille. So I'm grateful for her biological father, and I've never ever disrespected him.
Yes.
Not behind closed doors, not in front of Camille. I've never disrespected him. I honor him.
Can we say that right there? That's huge. You have to, and again, the Holy Spirit is the governor, and I can't, you know, speak on that like a Miles Monroe could, but the Holy Spirit truly has to be the governor of that house. There were times when I wanted to just open my mouth and just, even when Camille was 13, and just say, do you realize what I've had to endure through this individual that I'm trying to protect you from, because I realize they're just not mature in certain areas, and that's why mom makes the choices that she does, and she says certain things, because the government system cannot protect your child's mindset.
Uh-oh.
So that's why we don't argue over a couple $100.
Uh-oh.
We just say, God, we know you're going to supply that. And we know that because this child's value is worth thousands and millions of dollars beyond what this little bitty bit could ever do. So we chose to, and when the Lord finally showed him, oh, that's why she's saying that.
That's why.
Then we were able to move into, it's all about her success. It's all about her success, whatever it takes for her to be successful. And at times when I wanted to say to her something, Lord would say, don't do it. Because every phase of her life, she's going to know who he is and who he is. She's going to learn to love. So this built and escalated all the way up to senior graduation, where we had both of them present. And I can remember that day and be like, wow, I can remember the words that my daughter said of how she honored both of them in that moment. And I think the reason why she was able to do that, and I think that it impacted both of them, whether her biological had been there all that time, and then seeing the one who had sold into her life during this, decades of her life, to see her to this moment, she did it with honor and grace in a way that I think transformed his life as well as his life. And I think it's because I chose to be silent rather than just to go off. And that's something I'll say to that mother. You have to guard your emotions and realize that that child is not just the child because you gave birth to it, but it's God's child. And so what you will be held against you in the court of heavenly law. Amen.
That's a good one.
That's good. That's real good. You all have such a beautiful situation where, it sounds like, Crystal, you were a great mom. You had already said, look, this is my husband. You're going to honor and respect him just like you're going to honor and respect me. And it sounds like your child fell right in line. As we know, unfortunately, a lot of families don't get to experience this side of heaven and blending a family. Talk to us.
And I'll say this, I didn't have to force that on her, because I've heard a lot of moms do that too. I didn't have to say, Camille now, but there were times when I can remember, like, you would say things like, this is your mother. And I would say, if you did feel that, she was crossing the line, if it was, and this really was more in adolescence. She said, like, she was like 13, 14, when they do what they do. We did what every other parent should do, which is remind that he said, this is my wife, and you're not going to talk to my wife that way. He always, held me up and I had a hard time, in adolescence. Oh God.
We all did.
But thank God we made it.
Yes, ma'am.
That's real. That's real. What do you say to the one where, so say you have a child, doesn't sound like your makeup, but say you have a child, say your daughter Camille lived with her father and she would come and just visit. What do you do when the child seems to be purposely trying to sabotage your new relationship, to the point where it's gotten to the point where you don't even know if you want your child to come back over to your home because they just repetitiously have tried to sabotage your relationship? How do you handle that? We know of those situations.
Yes.
Yeah, we do. You have to make sure and do your best to have a good relationship with the other parent, because kids they sense weakness. And they're trying to divide and conquer to get what they want. And you also have sometimes that parent that they're living with is sabotaging, is trying to mess with you because they still like you. They're still in love with you. We do a lot of counseling, and we see that situation more often than not where they're sabotaging the kid's mind. The parent that the child is living with, and when they go visit the other parent, they're almost causing the other child to hate the other parent, which is completely wrong. Yeah. So how do you handle that? That is something that will drive somebody insane. Yeah. I have seen friends back home in Albuquerque commit suicide because they just they couldn't take it. It's hard. So, CC, that is a question that is it's so deep, and all you can do is pray, keep honoring the other parent, even when they're not honoring you, and try to just be mindful that child is still a child. and just do the best you can to navigate it, because that's hard. That is extremely hard. It'll drive you insane if you let it. That's why you just got to really, like you said, have some hush mouth grace, like they used to say in the church. Have some hush mouth grace.
That's good. And that's really, sometimes you don't know what else to do but just to pray. You know, we always, as humans, we're looking for solutions. We're going to fix it. We're going to throw you out of here. We're going to do something. But sometimes you do have to just choose to operate in love and pray. And that's the toughest piece of advice that a lot of us have to sit on.
Yeah.
But eventually, hopefully, it starts to break when we do like what Brandy said here in choosing love.
Yeah.
I know our daughter's good friend, when she was about 7 years old, actually, I think back, it was a blessing for me to see how Kiara's mother and her father and the step family, we'll just say that the father remarried, and so then the family that he had there, as well as her mother's family from her mother's new marriage. She had 2 new marriages on both sides. They would come together and they would discuss what was going on in her life. There wasn't this, oh, I have an alternate family and they let me do da 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 da, and it's separate from this. That is, I think that opened my eyes, and that was even before we got married. When you all said that, it made me think of that, because I have seen success, and I've seen where, wow, this child was not, given this wholly different personality. They came together. They would have meetings together. They would over dinner or whatever, and I think it was weekly or bi-weekly, and they would discuss all that was going on. And this child is a successful child now. She graduated from Spelman, going off traveling, seeing the world. And I look and I say, wow, those little nuggets that I even got from that family, even before we got married, it's sealed within me that, you know what, you can be successful. You can. And if you choose to not be selfish.
Selfish. Yeah. The selfish, that S word again, it's the basis of every relationship, whether marriage, whether at work, family, anything, it's the premise of it. And if it has no place in any of it.
Doesn't have a place.
Yeah, not in a blended family.
But in a blended family, it'll be like
devastating.
The devastation of just years and years. And I like to use this term when I say casualties of war, because I feel like our children, that's what they are when they stand between a mother and a father, when they stand between whoever it is, the parent guardians, whoever it is, they're adopted, and they're standing, whoever it is, it's now, and they're going back and forth over their heads, and or they're getting knocked out because they're in the midst of it. And so we have to be very sensitive. I think that just is key, to how we deal with each other. There's some talks we had, we went in the room. Hey, I'm in here. Because we didn't want them.
Go ahead, finish what you were saying. Go ahead.
I was just simply saying we didn't want them to be, casualties of war. Just, something that we couldn't figure out right then. We chose to hold on. Let's deal with it, and then we'll come back, before them. But we wanted them to see a unified front.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you're joining us just now, we are sitting here and we're talking to the blended family guy himself, Marques Holmes, and his wife, Crystal Holmes. And tonight we're having some really candid dialogue about this whole blending family process. It is not easy, but when you all are on one accord, as this couple was in their situation, it's made a little bit more smoother, let's just say that. But tonight, we welcome your questions. We welcome your comments. We're getting a lot of really good dialogue tonight, and we thank you for that. This next question is for you, Crystal, and I'd like for you to answer it as honestly as you can, thinking back all the way to the beginning when you all first got married. And then I want you to address how the way you will answer it, I think we all would answer it this way, but honestly, a lot of us are not living it this way. Okay. So here's my question. You're the wife. In what order should your priorities fall within your new blended family? Okay. So number 1, God. Number 2, my child. Number 3, my husband. And number 4, my husband's children, which would be my stepchildren. How did that order go for you in the beginning of your marriage?
Ooh,
So
good question.
in the beginning, I was fortunate to say that it was God, because I had really was growing in my walk with him to lead me to the place of marriage, because I wasn't looking for marriage. I was really content with just growing in him at that particular phase. And then I was being specific. And so when marriage came, that was in place. Now, I will say that as we moved in together, as we became a family unit, that there were moments when I flip-flopped between Marcus and child. So it wasn't like I was always child second, because I know, that can be the case big time with my situation. But with me, I would flip-flop. So it would be Marcus second. And then there were times when it was Camille second, because I was learning to release myself.
Yeah.
So as we were talking about the trust that he was earning, there were times when I still felt like, well, that's what I did. Because when you have been a mother who did what you did it all, or in my case, I had a unit, a hierarchy in my family unit. We had grandmother, those blacks have a great grandmother, and we had, but in my situation, I was, ranked. So it was like, wait a minute. So, I had to adjust to, oh, Marcus can do that. It's okay for Marcus to step in and do that. And so, yeah, that first year, I didn't do that. I didn't do it consistently.
Right.
But again, I would get that little knock, that little voice right there that's talking right in your ear. That little Holy Spirit would say, and you should have. And that's why I say again, I just, you gotta have guys at number one. I'm talking about where he talks to you and gets in your business, because he was doing that with me constantly within our marriage. Because you know why? He cares so much about that girl. He cared about me. And he cared about that girl. But that's his daughter. So he's like, you need to release. There's a reason why I brought you all together. And he is the man. He's the set man for her as well as he is for you. So it was a flip-flop. Okay? And I think that's, yeah.
She's being honest. I was going to see if we were going to have to pray.
Keep it true.
And you know what? I didn't even think about the fact that it could be
She's right. That's right.
Okay, so.
But that's fair. That's fair. And I think I like the fact that you were able to bring in the flip-flop perspective, because some people are just all or nothing. It's all my child, or my child don't even exist. It's all about my man. So in essence, it sounded like you kind of had a balance there, Crystal.
Well, it made it tough on us at times, because Marcus would be like, but if you don't let me do this, then how am I going to show her? And I, so that would be our little thing. And then, so I think that also through the mercy of God, it wasn't anything that was just like extreme, but he was training us in the little things, to show that this is how the unit should be, showing me what it should be. And, that's kind of where we were with it. And then gradually, I thank God, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, 5th grade, I think I got it by the time she was about to get out of elementary school. So
she was trained.
That thing was, if I was still acting that way in middle school, that would have been insane.
What a lot of blended family fathers, when it's a girl, right, it's a little different when it's a boy, and every dynamic is different. But what I had to realize is I had to earn her trust as well. I couldn't take that for granted. This is her daughter.
Right.
She's raised her. I'm the new guy. And so I didn't take it for granted that I also had to earn her trust. Now, that's where there can be, because you have some great fathers out there that really want to be great step up. All right. So that's another term. I hate the word step parenting. It's step up. It's I coined the term step up dad, step up parenting.
Like that.
But there can be that tension, right, where the mom wants to release trust to you, but she's not ready, and you're ready to really take on being that father that child needs. And sometimes there's that struggle, there's that tension, and that's where you really need some good coaching, some good counseling, some good sounding boards, not your friend down at the hairdresser who's just going to agree with you being frustrated, right? Or down at the barbershop.
Right. And I have to say this, Lord, for those of us who we're all in a different walk within our faith. We're all in different places. But I say this again, mother and father, when you're looking at who it is that you want to marry, you have to first look at where they are in their walk, because the Bible says, a tree by its fruit. So you have to evaluate the fruit that's in a person's life. Because if I can't trust you, because I don't see the fruit in your life that allows me to say, I see love, I see patience, I see peace, I see long suffering, I see that you're not going to try to violate my child. Let's just be real. Because I know of some situations in the past with seniors, people that are couples that may have been blended, that are much older than us. And what they did, because they didn't have coaching back then, because maybe they didn't have anyone to just kind of guide or even give them an example, there was this protective layer between the mother and the child, and the father just kind of, you don't sit on my lap. They don't even hug. They don't kiss, because there's like this. And then later on, I find out through discussion that, it was because of your own personal insecurities that you had, because of some things you had seen in your family that dealt with abuse and violation. Well, what did you do? You brought that into your marriage with a man who didn't mean this child any harm, but because they don't, he chose to not confront, and he didn't want to force that. Now you have a child that grew up and probably did not receive true love and affection. And as a result of that, they struggled to look for it elsewhere. So I'm saying all that to say, I believe we did not have it perfect, y'all. I'm telling you. But one of the things I just thank God that I could look at Marcus, and Marcus, to this day, Camille come running in this house. As far as she's not here yet, because when she smells food, she comes running. that she will come and jump in this man's lap now and just say, Daddy, I want to show you da-da-da, because she feels safety. Yeah. And it's so important for a child to feel safe and secure in a blended family, because there's so many families where that's not happening. There's so many families where girls and, and even boys, that's why I say flip it, just don't have that security. And if you can't trust the person enough outside of, before you say I do, you don't need to say I do.
That's good. Amen. That is so good how you taught that up. And that's so true. This is more than just about you and him. This is about the safety and the security of your children as well. Y'all have just dropped little nuggets all over the place. The people are like, wow, this is the truth. And we appreciate that so much. We're coming up on the end of our hour, but what I'd like to do here is I'd like to get your final thoughts. 2 final thoughts from you, Marcus, and then 2 final thoughts from you as well, Crystal, on just your biggest 2 nuggets that you could give to a wife, Crystal, and to a husband, Marcus, on when it comes to blending families.
2 final thoughts for a wife. Pray and wait. Pray, wait. Do not be anxious, because you have too many things at stake. It's not just your life, but it's your child's life. So pray and wait.
That is so good.
Wow.
I would say,
Marcus.
Yeah. I would say this. One, as a husband, you've got to earn it every day. For that blended family, those children, you cannot come in selfish. You cannot come in thinking that just because you're the man, things should just work. You've got to earn those children's trust. And the second thing is, you've got to learn you might not ever earn their trust. So you've got to be resigned in your mind that, you know what, those children, I might not ever be as close as I want to, but I've got to accept that and still love them where they are.
Yeah. Love the time limit.
No time limit on earning trust. Might not ever happen. And you've got to be okay with that. So.
Wow. That is so, the answers that I thought y'all would give to this, or that maybe I thought that I would give to this.
Not generic.
Not generic at all. I mean, this is, some real tried and true in the fire, came out alive kind of advice. And what it is, though, you all have given both very selfless nuggets, how you have to just step outside of what it is that you desire to have and really put yourself in the other person's shoes, in that case being the children or your wife or your husband. And I admire that about you all. I think more marriages would survive longer if you did that. Want to thank you all so much for your candor, for your transparency tonight. All the comments that have left are nothing but love tonight. They thank you so much for just sharing a piece of your life with us. And I encourage you to, if you're married, I encourage you all to think of marriage just as a ministry and try being open. You don't have to be open to the masses like we are on social media. Not by any means am I encouraging you to do that. But what I am encouraging you to do
on the subject.
What I am encouraging you to do is actually find, a married couple that's just recently married who seems like they could really glean something from your marriage and share it. Yeah. Share it. That is the only way we can start to heal our community.
Absolutely.
When it comes. Absolutely. That's it. We thank you all so much again, Marcus and Crystal. We're going to close out the show here. We will
be sure you can put your information on where they can find you. Tell them your Instagram, website, all that good stuff.
Yes.
Sure. Instagram, Marques A. Holmes, on Facebook. You type Strong Blend, you can become part of our Blended Family Playbook Facebook group. My business page is under Marques, middle initial A. There it is right there on the screen. Twitter, the same, MarquesHolmes.com if you want to get to my website. We just did a complete rebranding, so you're going to see a lot more content being pushed out. And my wife, I believe it's Crystal, the Amazing Woman Holmes. What is your Instagram?
It's
what is
just
it?
at Crystal Joel.
Okay.
And
with the K?
Crystal with the K.
Crystal with the K. Yeah.
Joel?
That's how you get in touch with us.
Joel. Joel. Crystal Joel.
Yeah. But this is what we love to do. And thank you so much for having us. We are honored. Making marriage great again. I love that.
Yes.
So y'all keep doing what you're doing. We're honored, and we're really wanting y'all to reach millions, because it's amazing what you're doing. It really is.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Well, nighty night. Bye, Camille.
Bye, Camille.
We enjoyed you all tonight.
All right.
We got Suttons in the city.
Yeah.
What's going on?
What you doing? You modeling?
Well, look here. Let me tell you something. Suttons in the city. For those of us who want to know what's happening here and around town, actually, for me, this Saturday, we're actually starting a new dance class, a new beginners class with Flow Motion Dance Association. And we will be at Shape Community Center at 10 a.m. sharp. We'll have nice little eats for you, and you will learn how to Houston two-step. And for those of us who don't know what Houston two-step is.
I'm trying to go. We're trying to see about our son. I want to. My wife is a dancer. I'm not, but I want to learn because she loves it. So I want to.
There's a Houston two-step?
Oh,
Houston two-step. It is actually native to Houston, and a lot of people don't know about it. It's something that our grandparents and our mamas and them used to do, but it started back in the 1930s, and a lot of people have no clue what it is. So we're bringing it on back.
Me personally, I'm an avid stinky legger.
Oh, Lord.
So preciseness.
On cue. But every Saturday at 10 a.m. at Shape Community Center for 1 hour, 10 till 11. So join us for our new beginners class.
Indeed. And then we'll be brunching somewhere. We haven't figured it out yet.
Where did we go this last
We'll
time,
let y'all
though?
recommend it. We went to Grace's. We went to Grace's. Shrimp and grits. Y'all know I'm a shrimp and grits connoisseur.
Yeah.
We agree on that.
We agree on that.
Yeah.
And then Shout out to the Catfish Station. I think they're going to be having brunch coming back soon at one of the locations. Shout out to Trey Thomas. So put that information in there as well.
Yes.
Well,
I think we've said
I think that was a good episode.
Yeah, I think it was a great episode. Let's go ahead and close it out with our pledge. Our Making Marriage Great Again pledge. As you all know, we never like to leave an hour without getting things in order.
Indeed.
Speaking life over our situations, our marriages, our personal situations, whatever it is, we want to share that and we want to speak life. So without further ado.
Indeed. Here we go. Kick it off. Today, I will commit to being a better person than I was yesterday.
Today, I will be open and honest with myself.
Today, I will be a better communicator.
Today, I will rid myself of negative views of dating and marriage. Today, I will do my part in making marriage great again. We want to thank you again for joining us on this hour at Tristen and CC. We are making marriage great again with your help. And we ask that you'll be back with us next Wednesday, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. right here with Sitting with the Suttons.
Indeed.
We hope you have a great rest of the week and a beautiful weekend. Enjoy this great weather.
Have fun, stay safe, and blessed.